his friend and brother writer Ben Jonson. He sighed. Across the years they had caroused and drunk, indulged in trick and escapade of every kind. The aging should be allowed to reminisce. How he hankered on occasion for the sounds of London, for the urgent energy of its streets and taverns, and the excitement of his youth. His past was but a whisper, and his present bound by predictability and aching bones. The small silver crucifix fell onto the open page, and his world tilted. With a trembling touch, he held the object to the light and turned it in his fingers. In this one tarnished artifact was history, a memory of the old religion, and those who in its name would do murder to a king. There was a thick sheaf of papers, too, a confession or dossier he freed carefully from its binding. Sleep could wait. As the hearth embers glowed and died and a pre-dawn chill drew in, Shakespeare read. Before him was laid out an intrigue in which many had been ensnared, and that had set a deadly trail from the manor houses of Warwickshire to the great Gunpowder Treason plot of 1605. By the grace of God, he was on the side of the victor, and through dint of providence once knew the horseman who had ridden here tonight. Faith and passion drove men to heroism or folly. Remember, remember, the 5th of November. He would leave others to judge. Beginning. The Azores, late summer 1591. Sail ho! Enemy to windward! Spanish masts crowded the horizon. They had the weather gauge and advantage, a vast formation of swollen sail inbound for the fray. These were not the laden now and caravel transports the English had expected, the annual migration of the treasure convoy from the Americas they lay in wait for. Instead, a battle fleet encroached from the east. Almost 60 Spanish galleons bore down on a squadron of 6 English ships. It was the afternoon of the 31st of August, 1591, and the ambushers had been ambushed. In the cross-trees of the waiting vessels, the lookouts strained to see and hollered their reports, their calls echoing and forcing the pace. Everywhere was action. The English had believed themselves safe, anchoring in a small bay on the northern tip of this small volcanic island of Flores. Here the sick could be taken ashore and parties sent to forage among the waterfalls and meadows. Here decks could be swabbed clean with vinegar, ballast replaced, and the hulls caulked with tow and pitch. Everything had changed, for hell was visiting paradise. As whistles blew and crews scrambled to make ready, skiffs splashed a frantic path back to their motherships, and figures swarmed to man the braces. All were preparing for flight. On the poop deck of the warship Revenge, its captain leant on the rail and surveyed the scene. A veteran of close encounters with the enemy, of tight odds and chances seized, and of wresting possession from the King of Spain, Sir Richard Grenville, privateer and vice-admiral, was not inclined to panic. At this spot aboard his ship had once stood Drake, the legend who had chased the Armada to its destruction. 3 years on, and the Spanish had rebuilt and ventured out with vengeance on their minds. Now it was Grenville's turn to find glory. He straightened to acknowledge a young gallant approaching from the main deck to join him at his station. Ceremony was unnecessary. There was a bond between them, a trust and familiarity born of combat and strengthened by shared loathing for the adversary and love for the melee. At 24, Christian Hardy was no ordinary seafarer. As a